If you ask anyone from old Louisville about the house on Magnolia Avenue, the one with the red door and the slanted porch, they'll look away, hesitate, and maybe mutter something about it being just an old place with bad luck. Nobody ever stays there long. Realtors never mention the property unless they absolutely have to. And at night, the lights inside flicker without cause. But it wasn't always that way. In the fall of 2023, Emily and Mark Redding, a young couple from Chicago, bought that house. It was a towering Victorian beauty, built in the 1880s, with stained glass windows, high arches, and clawfoot bathtubs. Emily had always dreamed of restoring an old home, and Mark, practical, patient, had agreed after finding out they could get it for nearly half the market value. "It's got charm," he had said, walking through the dusty halls, his voice echoing against the peeling wallpaper. "Just needs love." The neighbors didn't say much. An old man across the street, who spent most days smoking on his porch, told them flat out, "You won't like the nights." Mark thought it was just local superstition. Emily thought it added character. Their first week went well. Emily took up painting again. Mark replaced creaky floorboards and rewired the kitchen. They laughed, played music, cooked dinner together, and started referring to the house as their forever home. That changed on the 8th night. At precisely 3:03 a.m., Emily woke up to the sound of a giggle. A child's giggle, not loud, not long, just a faint, playful laugh, as if someone was hiding in the walls. Mark was sound asleep beside her. She sat up, eyes wide, staring into the dark corners of the bedroom. The laugh didn't come again, and she chalked it up to a dream. But the next night, at 3:03 a.m., it happened again. Louder. Mark heard it too this time. He leapt out of bed, turning on every light upstairs. They checked the baby monitor, though they had no children, and searched every room. Nothing. No draft. No open windows. Just silence. "It's an old house," Mark said, rubbing his eyes. "Pipes, maybe. Old houses make noises." But by the third night, the giggle turned into giggles. Multiple voices. Dozens of them. All around. All at once. Inside the walls. Emily refused to sleep in the bedroom anymore. She moved to the couch, jumping at every sound. Mark, determined to fix whatever it was, decided to check the attic. It was cramped and smelled like dead mice and mildew. But nothing unusual at first glance. Just boxes, old books, and a moth-eaten trunk. Inside the trunk were newspaper clippings, yellow with age. Headlines from the 1950s. "Local boy disappears on way to school. Girl, 6, vanishes from front yard. Search called off for missing triplets." Each clipping had a photograph. Each child was smiling. Emily wanted to leave. Mark refused. "We've put our savings into this place," he said. "There has to be an explanation." The next night, at 3:03, the giggling returned. This time, it didn't stop after a few seconds. It stretched on for minutes. Echoing, reverberating. Mark, his patience snapped, grabbed a hammer and began smashing the dry wall in the hallway. Behind it was not insulation. There were dolls. Dozens and dozens of ventriloquist dummies, stacked neatly between the studs, each sitting upright, each with glassy eyes and painted smiles. Their wooden mouths were slightly ajar, teeth carved too realistically. Some had wigs made of real hair. One wore a tiny bow tie. Another, a stained pinafore. And every one of them had a name scratched into its forehead with what looked like a knife. The names matched the clippings. Tommy, Lisa, Brian, the triplets. Sam, Sarah, Simon. Emily screamed. They called the police. Officers came, looked, and whispered among themselves. They called in specialists, forensics, historians, paranormal investigators, even. But nothing made sense. The police opened a historical investigation. The house, it turned out, had once belonged to a man named Victor Bellamy, a failed stage magician who performed under the name, the Astonishing Bellamy, during the 1940s and 50s. His act had revolved around ventriloquism, hypnosis, and sleight of hand. But his career fizzled after a child volunteer vanished during a magic show in 1952. Bellamy was never convicted, but he disappeared shortly after. Rumors claimed he lived in that house for years after, continuing his work in secret. His wife reportedly left him after finding the dummies. No one ever saw her again, either. When authorities attempted to remove the dolls from the walls, things worsened. One of the officers went missing, vanished in broad daylight while cataloging the names. Another began hearing whispers and was later committed to a psychiatric hospital after claiming the dolls spoke to him in his dreams. Emily and Mark left that same week. They packed a single suitcase, didn't wait for the mortgage paperwork, and fled to Emily's sister's place in Indiana. They never looked back. The house has remained empty since. But here's where it gets stranger. People walking past the house at night still report hearing the giggles. Faint, but unmistakable, always at 3:03 a.m. Some have claimed the dolls move. Their faces change. One man said he saw a dummy waving at him from an upstairs window, its head twitching from side to side. Another reported that, when he walked close enough, he saw not a doll, but a child with glass eyes, smiling too widely, mouthing words he couldn't hear. The old man across the street, the one who warned Emily and Mark, died last year. Left a note behind, one line, scrawled in shaky handwriting. The magician never left. No one knows what happened to Victor Bellamy. No death certificate, no confirmed sightings, no grave. But sometimes, only sometimes, people claim they've seen a tall, thin man in a dusty black tuxedo standing in the yard at night, top hat in hand, bowing to an invisible audience. And if you stand on that porch, just past midnight, some say you'll feel a hand gently brush your shoulder. You'll hear the floorboards creak behind you. And then, without warning, you'll hear it. That laugh, high-pitched, innocent, childlike, coming from the walls.